Hello everybody, hope that you're doing very well and welcome to another cryptocurrency, I'm losing my mind, sorry, that was a bad start, because I'm totally focused on this trade that I've just been doing. Welcome to a Contenders technical analysis. What am I on about? Contenders live stream. Focus, Daniel, focus down. Sorry, it's getting the better of me. The Bitcoin chart, which I will cover for you all at the end, I promise. It's just been absolute fire today, absolute fire, which I have thoroughly enjoyed. Safe to say, getting a little bit carried away, I suppose, but yeah, it's very nice indeed. So yeah, focused for the stream. Let's remain professional and yeah. Forget Bitcoin for the next hour. Okay, so I want to go over, start with Theta chart of the week. Okay, and then moving on to Fibbonacci speed fans. And this was one that I obviously put to the group of... so I was actually going to be moving away from Fibbonacci. I know that we've been going over Fibbonacci for a long time now. But Fibbonacci speed fans are it's just one that I felt I couldn't really leave out. And people were also really interested in seeing it, as they should be, if I'm honest, because they are extremely helpful, and it's another one of these tools that is not necessarily just on price but also time. So it's like a combination of them both. So I'm going to be going over... You're going to laugh at this at the end, but I'm going to be going over Fibonacci speed retracement fans from TradingView, and I'm going to be going over Fibonacci fans. You'll see the difference at the end of the video. And then, yeah, so that will then, this should be the last one I foresee on Fibonacci. And then next week, I will definitely be going over open interest, how we can trade using open interest stats in depth, as well as the funding, because I think every day I get questioned on that. So it just makes so much more sense to just do a stream on it. So yeah, next week will be open interest and funding, just so you're aware of what's happening next week. But this week, yes, Fibonacci speed fans. Let me just make sure everyone can hear me brilliantly. Cool, right, so yeah, let's begin. So everyone can hear. So I've moved this to the start, just the first slide for all the time now. And this is obviously just a quick disclaimer, just to say, you know, everything is not financial advice. Do your own research, and yeah, just pause the screen and read this before we begin, I suppose. So chart of the week, being for me Theta. Okay, this trade, what was it? 2 days ago. Feels like actually about a month ago. It just feels so long ago since I've taken this trade, if I'm honest with you. So I can hardly actually remember even what I was thinking at this moment in time. But I think it was a few days ago. This is why I should probably write a bit more detail on my things. But so okay, so I was looking for a bull flag. Oh yeah, and of course every alt, literally, obviously Bitcoin was just hovering sideways in its range. Every single alt was absolutely just popping. So we were just seeing alts left, right, and center. It was kind of, as I sometimes refer to, as buy an alt and profit day. You know, I was debating doing ICX for chart of the week, just because that has been like the number one, but I felt as if I've covered Icon like too many times recently, so I thought, well, yeah, no, I can't really cover that again. People are going to get a bit bored of Icon. But yeah, this was another really nice one, I think, the way that it traded. Okay, so we can see, obviously, it's headed south now, very much so, but that's no surprise, really, while we see Bitcoin up 6% on the day. Obviously, this is coming off of weekly resistance. So let me walk you through this trade. I feel it was really nice, to be honest. Yeah, so let me just walk you through this quickly. So basically what we saw here, there was more confluence. I can't remember now. Yeah, I really need to actually write a bit more because there was something else that I was forgetting. Oh yeah, I think it was just simply the aggressive entry off the 382 on the bull flag. So obviously flagged down here, held around the 382, and then it was just like an aggressive entry on an altcoin, which I feel was like at a bottoming. So yeah, that was what I was looking at. Yeah, so basically we had that bull flag, and in the end it worked out really nicely because I got to compound this one as well. So I had a first entry here at the 382. Then we obviously moved up. This is a 618 rejection. I'm kind of coming back to me now. We moved up, and Theta does like the 618. So like, you know, I'm talking about like sat to the sat. Okay, I'll try and load up a few more examples for you of like where this is rejected in the I guess it's not going to work so well now, but I remember very well indeed that when we went from this high to this low, you see here on this candle right there, to the exact, literally the exact sat of the 618, it rejected it, come back down, held resistance as support, and then got another move. Oh, that's That's this move. Okay, it has happened again. So this is the hourly chart. Let's come back out to the 8-hour. And I remember on this rise, it happened again. Well, that funny enough, that was an example that I wasn't even trying to show. I was actually trying to show from this example. Back on the major rise, it did hit the 618 exactly on that day. I remember to the exact sat. Got a retrace back down to this monthly and then moved up again. Sorry, I literally thought I was going to explain that, but that was actually a really nice example as well that I've just shown you. But I was after this one where we actually went from. I can't remember now. This was over over a month ago. I can't remember if it was this pivot or that pivot, if I'm honest. But I just remember that we hit we're hitting 618 to the exact sat on a lower term time frame, and you got rejected, and then you come back and held support, and you're not a major one, but you got another move up again from it. Really think it was that from that pivot high, if I'm honest. But yeah, basically, Theta really likes to respect the 618 as we like to see, I suppose. So yeah, that was why you got rejected here, and I did compound this from first entry here. We come up, we hit the 618, and then we came back down onto the monthly, and I was actually taking profits here, compounded again on the monthly, and then we came back up. And this was a little bit annoying, I suppose, that my actual target was based off of the channel. So you can see here the level that you got rejected, and it actually is a really big weekly, so I'm not really too surprised. But we did get rejected off of this weekly. As you can see here, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and nearly 10 weeks coming on of resistance. So clearly the level to get above, isn't it? But you can see why we've got rejected at this level. Really clearly still that weekly that's coming into play. But yeah, I unfortunately didn't close out at the exact high. Because my, it was actually in hindsight a really bad decision to place my take profit above the psychological 50 sats, because in the end we topped out at 48 sats, and I'm normally really good at going just below the psychological numbers, and 48 for me is like a number I always normally trade. So for me it was a little bit poor, so I didn't manage to actually close out at a high. But I did get out of it at the 618 retracement, and that was obviously, actually a little bit lower. I must admit, I didn't actually close out exactly on that 618. I got out a little bit lower, but nevertheless, it was still a profitable trade. I could have maximized profits even more if I was just like a little bit more sensible on my take profit, because that was a little bit silly. I must admit that was a little bit silly, but as I've said before, profit is profit, and that's the main thing. As long as I prefer to take less profit than a loss. So that was the setup that I had for Theta. Yeah, I feel that it's gone pretty nicely, if I'm honest, okay? And then on the larger term picture, if we just remove that a second, larger term picture, I was looking to see if this monthly would back, because I'm out of that Theta totally. I'm not in any position anymore on it. But what I would like to see to get back into a position is really come back up and claim this middle of the channel again. If we can claim the middle of the channel again, then I'll look to trade it up to 618 at this move to there, to try and get it back above that monthly. Really clearly though, that weekly is the level that you want to claim, okay? And obviously weekly level, you want to claim it on a weekly close. That makes sense, doesn't it? So you want to see a weekly close above this weekly level for you to have some real validation that you can then trade it to the next weekly. And you just have to remember that is about 25%. People overlook 25%, but that's absolutely obviously crazy massive. So yeah, you'd really want to see a weekly close above there, to be honest. So we're only on Wednesday, and it's still a while away from it, but you can clearly see why that is acting as resistance. And I think that's everything. Oh yeah, so this was yesterday. So obviously we came back, we back tested that, and then we were we moved up another, I think about 6% from there. So yeah, that is Theta for you all. Let me just double check something really quickly. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. That was Theta, and I must say that this week of trading, because I've been I've traded Bitcoin really well, to be honest. I've traded Bitcoin really well, and I've been trading altcoins extremely well. Yeah, today is one of my top 5 weeks period in cryptocurrency trading for the amount of profits that I've made. Not that it helps you. Well, I guess it does actually help you, because I've seen many comments of people also posting amazing profits, so it does help you actually. But yeah, today is is one of my top 5 days of trading. No, not days, sorry, weeks. So this week has been one of my top 5 in profit percentage terms. Yeah, so I must admit I'm extremely happy with how altcoins and Bitcoin has gone over the past week, because yeah, that's absolutely insane, if I'm honest. But anyway, moving on. So what we can see is the next topic that I want to cover today is Fibonacci speed on TradingView. They are called. I will load up the chart a second. I'll show you what they're called. What they call them. So they call them here. They call them because they have a different name. You see, they call them fib speed resistance fans. They're generally just called Fibonacci fans, but for some reason TradingView gives them peculiar names, you know, just like they call this the trend-based fib extension. Most people don't call it that, but yeah, obviously TradingView has its own naming system, and they call it the fib resistance speed fan. That is located on the left-hand side, Fibonacci speed resistance fan. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. So it's kind of very similar. I've used the same, you know, first point as I made last week, that many people just forget about time, forget about the angles of a ascent or descent, and you know, they just focus on the price chart. And this is another tool that's going to help you, you know, pay a focus to the timing in things happen. Okay, so Fibonacci fans are extremely, you know, extremely useful for determining when the slope. Oh, I've spelled that incorrectly, but slope of a move has become overextended. Okay, and a good time taken plus angle for a retracement. So I really like to use this on I must admit, on a bigger term time frame. So I would like to see this on, like, you know, 4-hour, daily, weekly charts. I'm going to go through a lot of examples because it's another one that's really hard to do. It's a bit more difficult to actually do a cheat sheet on per se. So I'm just going to go through lots of examples on the charts. We'll go through you know, several charts, and I'll give you lots of examples of like how exactly we're using this. But it's fairly simple, and it's like in the theory is really quite simple. It's just a tool that is totally underappreciated. It's really, really, really underappreciated. You don't see many people using it at all, and that's a shame because it's really, really powerful. So you know, Fibonacci speed fans in confluence with Fibonacci time and retracements. Okay, so the three together, I absolutely just find amazing. Okay, when you can see a Fibonacci retracement lining up with a speed fan, that's really powerful. Then if you can get that with a Fibonacci time as well, it's just like God mode essentially of trading, because the three lining up is really, really, really amazing. And I have some examples of where they have lined up, and actually they traded perfectly. So yeah, let's move on to the tool. So I'm just going to read this out for you. Okay, so the Fibonacci speed fan has many different uses, but my favorite is using it as a support and resistance level on the macro time frame. So macro I refer to as like 4-hour plus, to be honest. Okay, so 4-hour plus. You can, you know, just like I mentioned harmonics when I was doing the harmonic videos, that you can obviously use this on the you know, you can use this on, I don't know, like the 1 minute chart. Okay, just as we can trade harmonics on the 1 minute chart, but it's much more advanced. It's a lot harder per se, and you're better off, at least until you've mastered the tool. Just use it on the 4-hour plus. You'll find it's a lot easier. Okay, but yeah, I just have wrote macro here, but again, it can be used on the lower, but yeah. So it requires 2 clicks, much like the Fibonacci retracement, and this is where the theory behind this tool is not difficult at all in terms of how you're going to lay it out. You're going to be very used to this, okay, because it's exactly of high to low or low to high, just as you would take your Fibonacci retracement levels. So it's very similar in that regard. So you should have no problems with it like that. Okay, so here as you can see here, what I've done, this is on Bitcoin. I'll load up the Bitcoin chart in a second. But I've just basically first click at the high, second click at the low. That gives us your Fibonacci, you know, price and time levels. So you do actually have time and price levels in here. Okay, you can see that you have the numbers on the left-hand side, which gives you this sort of grid, numbers at the top, and then your fan, which kind of comes out for your angles. So and yeah, these are basically just support and resistance lines. So when broken, you expect it to be support, and while it's above you, you expect it to be resistance. So for example, you could expect this to come up and hit the 382 and reject, and then possibly come back down to the 0.5 for an example. Okay, so there's support resistance lines. So here, this is just a note. We'll come over to the chart a second. So we will come over to the chart. Oh, come on, why is this going so slow? Oh, no, there we go. I thought my internet had died then or something. So let me just hide everything that we got here so far. I will zoom in on this really quickly because oh my, why is this going so slow? I'm not sure if it's TradingView or my internet. Oh no. I have a feeling it might be my internet. Can you all hear me okay? If someone could just confirm if you could hear me, because I have a feeling my internet might be dying. I'm not 100% sure, but this is obviously not good. And I have a feeling my internet is dying. No comments received. I have a feeling my internet has died then. If someone could kind of drop a comment, because I am not sure if my internet has gone, would be really helpful, because I don't want to continue if my internet's died, and I'll need to go and reset my router, I suppose. No, it's good apparently. Okay. Sorry, I thought my internet had gone because I was trying to load up a few websites as a test and none of them are loading, and the trading view is going really, really, really slow. But everyone can apparently hear me, so I will continue then. Okay, that's just random that this is going ultra slow. Anyway, let's continue on briefly. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult when it's going this slow. Really laggy. Anyway, so what was I going to explain? This is lose my thought process really easy when I get distracted. Oh yeah, I was just gonna, before I removed everything off this chart, I just wanted you all to appreciate again this shark harmonic. Okay, how does shark harmonic? I think I might have covered it last stream, I can't remember. But how does shark harmonic literally time the high? As you all know, AB equals CD 1618. You hit the 1618 to the exact hour. So the shark harmonic timed the exact high, and then as you all know, when you get to a shark harmonic, take profit 1 is the 0.5, take profit 2 is the low of C. This actually timed the exact high and got the exact low. Okay, and then obviously you go up again. So just like anyone that says harmonics are not amazing, like just literally showed them that shark. It timed to the exact hour the high, and then for the target of the lows, it also nailed the lows. So I wanted to just highlight that before I move on and actually just hide everything there. Cool. So let's go back out. This is annoying that it's literally so laggy. It's weird because my internet is generally really, really good. Okay, my internet is generally really good, and yeah, it's weird to have it lagging like this. So I hope it's TradingView or something, but let's continue. So basically, yeah, this is what I was looking at. So you go from the very high. So just as we do the Fibonacci retracements, yeah. So from the high to the low, we all know that this is how we do our Fibonacci retracements. Okay, it's the exact same theory. So laggy. Yeah, let me restart the browser then a second. I'm just going to restart my browser and see if this helps. Let's just close this down. Let's just save that, I suppose, and then I'll close it down and reopen it a second. Come on, I think that's saved. Ugh. Why is this not saving? Don't worry, I will not cut you short at the end. I will keep going. Obviously this is just gonna have to close. Don't know, it's a bit weird. So back onto TradingView. I don't know, it doesn't seem like that's actually helped. I'm just gonna have to fight through this. It's just really annoying that it's so slow. It's pretty hard to keep up with a good speed and rhythm while this is happening. Oh, what is this? Oh, I have a feeling I might have to just go and reset my router because something is clearly going on here. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to have to do this because I obviously cannot continue while this is just glitched. Bear with me 2 minutes. I'm going to have to go reset this. Maybe if I close out of Sierra charts. I've no idea if anyone can hear me either, because I can't actually load up YouTube either. Oh, this is annoying. Highly annoying. Oh, and we are back, maybe. Back? Oh, it's still so slow. Oh, I've never had this before. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just reboot. Everybody, just bear with me a second while I do this. I honestly really apologise. I was not obviously expecting this to occur. Bear with me while I just go and reboot this a second. So really, really, honestly, sorry. Everybody, just bear with me a second while I do this. I Is this better? There's no sound. I'm really not sure. Literally, I never have problems like this, and it seems really weird that it's as soon as I started the stream that everything. Oh, it's all good again. Okay, apparently it's all good again. No idea what went on there, if I'm honest with you all. Absolutely no idea, but at least it's working again. Yeah, that has totally took me off my swing. Not gonna lie. What was I explaining? Okay, yeah. Obviously, really big apologies for that. I can only apologise. So where was I going? I was going to hide everything, wasn't I? And okay, let's go through the Bitcoin Fibonacci speed fan. Cool. Okay, so let's resume. I will make this up to you. I assure you. So basically, I was going to load up this and just show you all how you can use these lines as support and resistance. Okay, so this is where I was. Okay, so basically you have the 0, 1 line. Okay, so you can see here where you go from your first click to your last click. That obviously gives you your 1. Okay, and then you can use these horizontal lines where you have the 7.5, 6.18, 0.5, 3.82 and 2.5 for sort of retracement levels. And then you can use these fans that come outwards. Okay, these are the main ones I use. The line, you know, the Fibonacci numbers that come out in different angles. Okay, so in the Fibonacci numbers of angles, apart from the 2.5, which is obviously a GAN number, and the 7.5. But obviously the 3.82, the 6.18 are your main ones here, and the 0.5 is just like a standard half retracement. It's not actually a Fibonacci number, but nevertheless, it's you know, frequently used. And what you like to see, okay, are these, I specifically like to just see the fib numbers, let's say, coming on as support and resistance levels, okay? Here, we actually didn't use them too much as resistance, but what you can see is the way that they became back tested as support. Okay, so you can see here on the first break of the 618. Okay, so if you see here the 618, well, let's just start at the beginning. So we can say the 75 actually didn't really offer any support or resistance at all. Okay, that one was just going straight through. So the 75, no. But the 618 worked perfectly as resistance. So you can see here where you resistance broke through, back tested. So this was obviously where the 618 was coming into play before you got another move to the upside. And when you came back down, you were coming back and back testing the 618 line. 618, 618, 618. And zooming in here a lot, you can see the 618 finally again hit before moving up. And you can see here, it didn't actually act as a resistance, but you did get support off of the 0.5 line. And this is the 0.5 support, 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 support. Okay, so that is on the larger term time frame. How these basically it's like looking at it in terms of time, because you have to think that you don't want the way that as I said, I like to use them just as support and resistance line, keeping it very simple in terms of the support and resistance lines. But like what you can do is then sort of use these time elements. Okay, so what you could say is this is the 618 horizontally. Okay, so this is the 618 horizontally, and you will sometimes see price intersect with the horizontal and the that horizontal and like the 0.5. So you could, for an example, see this come up and hit these 618 on exactly the 0.5, and then that is like the confluence of the actual fan. And like this is a unique tool to TradingView, I must admit, but then the like horizontal 618 on the 0.5, and then that would come together. So you can sort of then see where the horizontals and the fans come together. Must admit that I I do concentrate more on the actual fans. Okay, so I concentrate more on the actual angles of these lines coming out. Okay, and I like to use them as confluence. I must say, I'm never trade on it alone, but using it as confluence, as support and resistances, then they are obviously really, really powerful indeed. Okay, so it's then what I love to do is use this in confluence with your standard retracement. Okay, so what we could do to build up a case using Fibonacci is then obviously take from high down to the low. Okay, and then we could put this on just a standard view, and what you can see here, you don't actually get much confluence until you get to this point, but then it's not acted exactly. Okay, but what you could envision was this to have been more resistance, because you had the 0.5 lining up with the 382. Okay, what's actually really nice here is this is the 0.5 of the leg, also with the 0.5, and that's coming in at a level where one would expect, a resistance being 10,000 psychological. So like this is like building up a case. Again, you'd want to see more and wait for reactions. Don't just like blindly short levels, for example. You kind of want to wait for confirmation because the trend's clearly up. But these are like levels where it's coming together. Again, the 2.5 is your last point of resistance, so that's obviously a really big resistance, the 2.5. The way here that we could envision this 2.5 lining up with the 6.6, it's just a way of determining confluence between, just simply retracement levels and the time, or it's more of an angle, I suppose, but the angle of the ascent here of when you would expect things to like, time out essentially, and then pull back. And when you break a level, okay, so the level above you is resistance. So for example, now 382, if we just delete this, 382 is resistance, but when you're above the level, it's support. Okay, I suppose that's fairly obvious, but the same would be being here. If we just again break 382, then you would expect it to back test as support before then you would expect the trend to continue, and then back test this as support, for example. So when this is above you, it's resistance. When it's below you, it's support. Okay, so this is the one that we would be looking at for resistance levels. Okay, and then really for support, what you'd be doing is dragging from this low up to the high. Okay, and you can see here that the 7.5, I guess, like what we would have had is the first instance here, like here, then to here, and then now you could go up to this high. This 7.5 would be your first intersection, and what you could see there is then a confluence of these two. If this, I'm not saying it's going to pull back, but if it did pull back, then you could see like the 0.5, obviously this 0.5 lining up with the 7.5 here, and then 7.5 is not the strongest, but then if you dragged down along it to the 618, okay, that's when you would expect a bit more of a reaction. Okay, so yeah, the theory I would say behind the tool is not too difficult. It's pretty simple. It's just the tool is really powerful and just really underused. And I just felt it was worth bringing this all to your attention, because I would use this on every single chart I produce. Every macro like time view that I'm looking at, I will always have this on my charts. So I'm not sure what's still happening with my internet, but I presume you can all hear me. But yeah, like for me, if I'm looking at a macro time frame, I would always just put this on my chart. So that's one thing that I would like to bear in mind. Just let you all know that, yeah, definitely I would have this on all my higher time frame charts. Like for instance, if we're looking at Bitcoin on the weekly, just really simply from this high to this low. I mean, there you go. It's like a perfect example of you come back up. Okay, you come up, you work your way through the levels. The 2.5 is your last like time resistance here. So it's kind of like if you break that, then you're expecting that rise all the way up to the top, and you can see how it acted as resistance here. And then you've been dragging along the 382. Okay, so you've been dragging along it. Again, yeah, there's definitely other reasons why we've been dragging along it. It's not just this level, let's be honest. But again, like the reason we rejected here wasn't just the 2.5. You obviously had confluences here. So this is a good case of confluence, isn't it? So what can we build the case here? Okay, we can build the case of saying we had the 618 on the 2.5. That is already built a very strong case indeed, if I'm honest, because it's a really big case to build of why you would reject here. Okay, and it's when you start putting together the pieces of the puzzle. It's almost like a jigsaw, I suppose. If you have a jigsaw of 100 pieces and you try and trade, you try and complete your jigsaw, and you're missing 10 pieces of the puzzle, it's never going to be right, and everyone's going to say it's a failure of work because you're missing 10 pieces of the puzzle. And it's almost like the same in trading, I suppose, that if you trade with only if you only trade with two tools, then you're probably going to be missing half of the reasoning of what's happening. I suppose that was just a random analogy I made off the top of my head, but it's the same in trading. You want to put pieces of the puzzle together to get a strong fit, essentially, because as you all know, I hope you all know, this was also the monthly level, wasn't it? So we also had monthly level here, okay, and again we're like building up tools that I've taught you all in the past that coming together now. And every new stream that I do, you should start seeing, wow, I never knew this, I never knew this, I never knew this. And then over time you're building up the same sort of tool set that I have, which just you have such an advantage because most people don't know how to use these tools, and they're just brilliant. Okay, so it's like when you start building up these confluences, retracements, monthly levels, this speed fan, for example. And as I mentioned earlier, you could add in, let me just make sure that was on the high. So this was, it's because I was on the weekly chart, but you can see here. Try and connect that to the high exactly. And then we had this connected to the high exactly. Okay, something around here. And then Fibonacci time itself. So what you could say is obviously from just this high to this low, and double click on that. Again, didn't actually help you time that high so much, if we're honest there. So impulse, what you could have done is really to look at this again. We would have to take a bit more time on this, but you could go, for example, back to the start of where this really got impulsive. Let's say it got a bit of an impulse, maybe a correction, okay, and it got impulsive here. So that length for the impulse to here, again, it's not really too useful to determine that high in terms of just what I have on this Bitcoin chart. But yeah, that's obviously what you're looking for in terms of confluences. If you can start putting the tools together, and that's when you'll find the tools work their best, not just using them on their own. So I just wanted to highlight that before I move on to the next slide, and I've got some more examples and more things to show you. Okay, so this was just another example, really. So just another example that I have. Okay, and this is on theta. Okay, and you can see here from high to low how you had the 618 here on the 618 retracement, and that's taken from the retracement from this high to this low, the Fibonacci speed fan from this high to this low, and then you had the 618 speed on the 618 retracement, and you can just see how that came together here, and you fell down to the 7.5 support, back up to the 618 speed, resistance, and obviously this has changed since, but we actually got to move back up. But that's just a view on theta. Should we just load up the chart a second? So theta, and I was going off of which high was I taking this from now? So it was this one all the way back here to this low. No, it was not. The high on back in May. So the high back in May. Oh, I'm very much confused. I must have been doing it. I've confused myself. How have I got this? Theta BTC. Oh, I've made myself look like a bit silly here, haven't I? Which high have I taken this from? I actually can't remember which high I've taken this from. Maybe I'm more on a zoomed in view. Ah, yes, it must be this high. I presume it must be this high here. No, I cannot remember which high I've taken this from. Here we go. That was this high. Sorry, that was a bit unplanned. It was this high. Okay, and this is why you could test different pivots, for example. But yeah, on this high is the one I was referring to here. And then it was on this high from this low. This high. Okay, sorry, I should have probably planned that a little bit better, shouldn't I? Let's just hide everything else on the chart. And keep on these two things. So there we go. That's a little bit better. So I actually had taken it from this high, and I guess you could say why this high. I will explain to you why I had this high. Okay, this is obviously a downtrend. So this is a joined piece of a segment, really, isn't it? So we obviously have downtrend here. I forgot that. Let's just delete it a second. So we had this bit of downtrend. Okay, that's a bit of downtrend, and then you go into this upwards consolidation period, and then that's the high that leads you on to your next downwards move. So this is clearly a pivot point, just as this is a pivot point, because again, this is the high that gave you a high over the pullback before another downwards move. Okay, this was a move down. That's the high that was given before another downwards move. That's the high given before a downwards move. These are pivots where you would pull Fibonacci levels from. This pivot, and really this pivot. There's only three that I would choose. The overall, this pivot high, this pivot high. Okay, just like with the Fibonacci, if you broke through this 618, then all you would do is move back a pivot. So you break through that, and then you got to get through this, and then obviously if you get through that, then you need to go back again, and you break through this. So it's always, it's the same sort of theory that I've taught before with this. And I guess with the fan, the first one I would really look at is, well, this one is clearly not going to help. So it would be this high to this low. That's where you got through the 618 there, and then obviously if you start breaking through this, you can move it back over pivot and get more levels. Okay, but level by level, as I like to say, you obviously have to get through this pivot high first, and you can see actually how it's working at the moment. So you basically you come up here to the 618, you back test 7.5, 7.5, 618 again. Here you're just bouncing off of a little bit of a swing failure of the lows. Okay, and then you'll go back up again to the 236, but again, you still haven't really closed above this 618 yet. So to 618 rejection, 618 rejection, 618 rejection, essentially. So, and that's obviously off of this last pivot. Okay, so does anybody have any questions in terms of that? I'll go through some more examples, but I hope I haven't caused confusion by my selection of pivots, and I hope that I've been able to explain why I selected this pivot high well enough for everyone to fully understand that. You would kind of work your way through pivots. So you go to this pivot, to this pivot, to this pivot high. Okay, so I hope that does make sense for you all. If not, then you're going to have to ask a question, and I'll happily answer your question. But yeah. So this was a nice example that I had actually on Mana. Okay, so this was like a nice, just like live example from yesterday, I think it must have been now, and this I was trading Mana, and I said I want to take profit 470 sats on Mana. Okay, and I also, funnily enough, posted this on Twitter, and this is just a nice example, I suppose, where I can just show you. Literally nobody knows about this tool, so I put up the question on Mana, basically offered anyone if they want to win 3 months membership of why I selected 470 sats. Okay, and as you can see, you come up and hit 470 sats to the exact sat, and you got about a 7% decrease in price. So you can just appreciate that this is really amazing. So why was I saying 470? Why was the target 470 which was hit and you saw a big decline in price? The answer is the Fibonacci. It was the last level of the 2.5. So when you compare this to like Bitcoin charts, like also that this is the last level, it's fairly important. So that's why it's a big level to get through. If you get through that, then you're expecting the move back up to 510 sats, because that's the high of the move. Okay, obviously we can't ignore weekly because that's obviously important, but you would take it level to level sort of thing. But yeah, basically you take 2.5 and then it's generally a big move to the next high. And I felt that was funny because I put that on Twitter. We had like 30 odd replies and not a single person guessed it. So yeah, that was just kind of nice, I suppose. But yeah, that's just another example. And I got another one here of okay, so this is actually, I'm not sure, I remember what I was going to explain with that one, but let's just go through some charts and just draw up this tool, okay? And just let's start with Litecoin, okay? So starting with Litecoin, the first pivot, and then if anyone has any questions, just ask and I will answer them, okay? So Litecoin, I would start from this pivot high to the low. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, this was honestly a random example, but you can see here, you hit the 618, you got rejected, you come down to the 7.5, you come up to the 0.5. So if we come down on a smaller time frame, just to see this closely, you can see here. Okay, if I bring out my pen tool, you can see here how you hit the 618 exactly, and people are going to be like, "Why is it rejected here?" That people have no idea. So you hit the 618, you come back down to the 7.5, you obviously break up to the 7.5, you hit the 0.5 here, you come back and back test the weekly. Then, in my opinion, you've got rejected here because then you start forming a channel, and it's just you just have to bring things together, don't you? But you reject off the top of the channel. Okay, here you come back down to the 0.5. That resistance of the 0.5 has now flipped to support. You come back up to the top of the channel again, you come back down to the 0.5, and now you're in a bit of no man's land. Okay, let's go on another example. If someone I'll do like I normally do. If someone wants to, well, let me read some of the comments, because if I say that, the whole thing just gets spammed. So I need to make sure I've not got any questions before I do this. Questions. Do we have any? Can we view some fans in something other than crypto? Yeah, why not? Let's do one on a stock market. Okay, so let's do I think what's nice. Let's do Square, because I like Square. So let's do an example on Square. Okay, so I guess maybe Square. Let's just do. So I would pull firstly always from this one to this one, but you can see that's no longer relevant because you've broken out of all the numbers. Okay, so then we can just pull to the last low here. Okay, so what we can see from that low, we came up to the 7.5, didn't offer very much resistance, but funny enough, we hit the 618 here. You come back down, and I've got this channel on, but it doesn't seem like it's overly respected. But you can see here the 618, more or less, come back down. You've come back up to the 0.5, where you've got a little bit of rejections around these levels, making its way up to weekly. Let me try and find. The problem with the stock market is because a lot of the declines were so quick, that it hasn't worked too well. So Twitter, again, this is another one. You're going to see that this decline is so fast. It's really not going to be overly. It's just not as helpful when the declines are so fast. It becomes a little bit, just a little bit harder. You can kind of see here how it's worked. Okay. So it's not been exact, but you have seen bits of rejection and flipping into support. Let's just try and find a nicer chart. I guess Activision is a bit more. Again, yeah, they all just declined so fast, obviously, but yeah, it's not the most perfect examples, I suppose, but that is a stock market for you. Here you can kind of see the theory, I suppose. Let's just go through the theory that, once you form this low, you come up to the 618, and you do get a bit of resistance, to be honest, at it. So you do hit the 618, you decline, you come back up, you hold it for a little bit, move on to the 0.5. There's just action around it here, okay? Again, then you come up to your next level, which would be the 382. Okay, reject 382, reject 382, reject 382, come back up to your next level, come up to the 0.25, resistance, support, breakthrough, backtest weekly, and then really this is now, well, I guess if you're looking at this from a standard point, this is the thing though, for me this isn't actually too helpful because this decline was so quick. Okay, you can see how each level acted as resistance. You did get reactions from each of the time periods here, but it's not really helpful now, is it? Because I mean, you wouldn't just buy this and expect to trade it all the way back up. So it's like not really too helpful because of the speed of this move. It's like, yeah, the tool has just become a little bit not helpful in my opinion, if I'm totally honest with you. On the flip side, this would be a more of a sensible way to look at it, from this low to this high. Okay, this would be more sensible. Okay, so we can envisage when we were, for example, this high, then we can see, it's not perfect, but we can see a little bit of this 7.5 coming into play. 618, 75, 75, 0.5, 75, 75, 75, 75, 618. So this is a more sensible way, because this move is, compare this, which is just instant dump, to this, which is actually working its way up in a much more sensible fashion. This is when it's more useful. Stock market is not great examples because everything just dumped, pretty simultaneously, and you can't really use it on these sort of examples, if I'm honest. So stock market is not great, but I hope I've given you a few examples there. Is it usable with log scale? Yes, 100%. You can use this on log scale. Yep, you can definitely put that on log scale. You can use it on 1 hour. I must say I prefer to use this. I'm only really using it on the macro, so that's 4 hour plus. You can definitely use it below that, but yeah, you generally, I would say, stick with this on the 4 hour plus time frames, and it should be more helpful if I'm totally honest. Is there a limit to the amount of time that needs to pass before the fan is still useful? Like if the move up is too steep. So I'll give you an example, and if someone wants to comment a alt that I've never covered, that is not on my list here, that isn't just a total dump, I'll set up the chart and explain. It's just easier for me to explain visually, actually showing you, I think, rather than trying to yeah, because sometimes with the questions, I find it struggle to answer the question, but I can just show you. Rather than like having an answer, I think I can just show you. So if someone wants to just comment an alt that I've never covered before, and I'll happily like set up Fibonacci time, Fibonacci speed fan together, and show you how I would look at it in comment. So XZS is the comment. I'll do that. It doesn't have to be crypto. Right? So. I don't know what this is, so I can't actually do that one. Sorry. This one then. We'll look at this. So let's go over this one. So the ways that I would look at this, first of all, I would go from it looks like it's downtrending. Okay, so we're clearly making lower highs and lower lows. So we're looking for support first, where I would start at the very low here, up to the high. Okay, low here up to the high. Again, this is a little bit. This is. I don't really like to use it. You see here, this went. This was a move of. So this was a move of 300% in a month. So again, just like Icon done 300% in a month, it's really not as helpful when something is just like massively impulsive. I don't really like to use it on this, if I'm honest. I want to see like a chart which is more normal, okay, where you build up slowly. Okay, these sort of impulsive moves are not as helpful, if I'm totally honest with you, but we can just go over the theory side of things. So what you would be looking for is on the declines, okay, support off of like 618, support off of the 0.5, 382, and the 2.5. Okay, so it's really simple of like how you'd use it in that regards. And in terms of Fibonacci time, what I would look for is take a Fibonacci time from the lows up to the highs here, double click. And what we could envision to see, because this is obviously clearly downtrending, a reaction, okay, of your lowest point, which is the 2.5. Again, because you went up so quick, you have obviously come down pretty quick indeed, because this whole impulse has, only just reached the 618, and it doesn't really look like it's over. So, but yeah, if you see the 2.5 lining up with really the 0.618 or the 1, then that would be pretty influential to think you've found a bottom. But I would honestly say I would not find it helpful looking at this chart. too impulsive, if I'm honest, too impulsive. This is when something moves up so quickly like this, you can kind of imagine, I suppose, that time is not really so useful, because if something just pumps like this, pumps like this, pumps like this, it's really not a very good tool to be using. You're just, you're probably better off just literally putting on a Fibonacci retracement rather than looking at time when something's like that. I'll take a look at this one because I think this has not been so impulsive. Yeah, so this is more like it. So this is going to be a bit more helpful. It's still moved up quite fast, but well, I mean, the downside is clearly really fast, but let's look at the flip side and look at something a little bit like this. Okay, we've definitely come without of the parameters, but what you would look for, okay, so we've, you can see here the resistance flip on it, okay, so what you would be looking for is this to come down in price, okay, so then let's do some confluence. So what we would say is the impulse has started here and ended up at the highs, okay, so wasn't really any confluence for this. Okay, what you would have liked to have seen, okay, if you were looking for a buy order, if I'm honest, you would like to have seen this come down and not lose the 2.5. Now you've lost this in this perspective. It's resistance, okay, so in my opinion, if we were just basing this off the tool, then you would look for this to come down to the lows. Maybe if you come that down to a 1-to-1 extension, so then you are hitting the lows, that's when it resets. That's officially when you would say, well, this tool has kind of hit it has no more targets to go. So if you came down into there on the 1-to-1 20th of Feb, then that's where you could have confluence of this tool, because it's lost all support. It's literally just lost all support. You can see to a certain extent how it has helped. Okay, so the 0.5 here got a little bounce. The 382 here got a bounce up to the 0.5. You did find no support at the 0.25, but then it has been resistance here. So yeah, it's arguably not the best. But I guess, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, you have that one. I'll do another one here. So I'll do ETH as well then. So the reason I haven't done Raven is because I know Raven has not really moved. XRP I also don't feel has I'll do both of them. I'll do that, and then that's it. So I'll do Raven, XRP, and Ethereum here. Ethereum, yeah, this is much more like it. So this is more of a downtrend where we can look at to monitor. So from this high to this low. Okay, so here you can see from the high to the low, we have hit the, from that low, we've come up to the 618 here, rejection, movement around the 618, and now we are literally at the 0.5, so one would expect a little bit of a rejection here. Okay, how can we look at confluence here? Okay, so what I would be looking at for in terms of time confluence, impulse, so what we can say is this is the length of this last impulse, low to high. Okay, so we would look for reactions at each of these Fibonacci intervals. We can see it. Does it really? This is not been too helpful in terms of the 0.618. The 1.618 has not really filled any lows. Yeah, I mean, I feel that this is not overly helpful. I really wanted to make this tool look really amazing, but now every example I'm showing you doesn't look amazing because this is arguably timed a low, but I'd feel it was a little bit more based off of actual market structure of the weekly rather than anything to do with this tool, if I'm honest, because I would say delete this, delete this, delete this, and literally you went up to monthly, rejected monthly, come down to weekly, hold weekly, you held weekly, you're probably coming back up to monthly. Like, this is sometimes where the simplest things are just so much, are really easy. But, because that's the way I would look at ETH. I wouldn't really try and say that this tool is actually very helpful in this scenario. But nevertheless, let's just pretend it's really helpful. So from this high to this low, I guess in hindsight it would have been I can't remember trading it back here, if I'm honest, in September, but from that low you do hit the 618, you do reject at the 618, you do come up to the 0.5, you do reject at the 0.5. Okay, if you look at it here, you do hit the 382, you reject at the 382. Okay, so now our next level is the 2.5. Okay, so thus far it has rejected off of each of the levels. 618 rejection, 0.5 rejection, and then bit of movements around the 382. And then actually, funny enough, you do then hold it back as support. So rejection here, support here. And yeah, using this tool per se, we would look for this to now move up to, maybe top of the channel in confluence with the 0.5 before back testing monthly, before making more of a run. yeah, I suppose, does anyone else have any questions? Oh yeah, I was going to go through XRP next. So let's do XRP BTC. I'm just trying to give you lots of examples, really. So let's go from the last high to the low. Okay, and what we can see here is nothing on the 7.5, to be honest. But look, you have the 618 with this trend line that I must have had on a long time ago, that you have also hit the trend line resistance. So yeah, you can see, like, this is basically what I'd be looking for. I'd want to build up a case. I wouldn't use this alone. So what we can say is, so this was from low, high, come all the way back down, working its way back up. Okay. So a few things to bear in mind. We could, I mean, it's really early days. Yes, I guess we could look at this high to this low. Okay, so there you go. Actually, you did have pretty nice reasons for this rejection. So actually, I don't actually trade XRP anymore, but you can see where you have confluence and why this rejected at this exact point, if I'm honest with you. So you can see you had, funny enough, it was just the 618 here of being the exact high, but with confluences, you had this trend line here, and then you also had this 618, sort of time interval sideways, and horizontally on that sort of respects as well. So you have a big confluence here. You have 618 horizontal of the resistance fan, you have 618 retracement from the high to the low, you have this 618 fan itself coming in here, and you also had the trend line, which I've accidentally just removed. You had that trend line, so you had like 4 different reasons of why XRP would stall here at least, and the other one RVN BTC. Raven. Again, I'm not going to pull from this high, because what you're going to see is if I pull from this high, it's not really, it's not going to be the absolute. So trying to line that up with this low down here. So, because you could just be aware that you've got this 618, but I feel we'd just go down to this pivot first, to be honest. So yeah, on this pivot high, you can see, arguably, that this is, it's not really being respected too well on terms of the first resistance, because you've got through it, you've made a high, but this was in a time where this moved up again 50% in a few days, so it kind of gets impulsive. But you can actually see, if we zoom down a little bit, okay, if you zoom down onto the time frames, well, there you go, actually. So funny enough, you did hit the 618 here, so this is the 618 fib time speed fan. You hit it exactly here, got a rejection exactly here. So this is pretty nice, I suppose, a nice example. Here's the series of highs of it hitting. You come back down and you then back test monthly. From monthly is when you move up to, I think, let's just say the weekly, okay? So that's actually a really nice example of it acting as resistance and basically to the sat. Okay, so then once it's broken, what we can see here is, trying to keep my eye on it. Okay, it comes into play again here, actually, as resistance, comes into play again, resistance. Okay, this is a really nice example. Comes into resistance, broken. Oh, wow, yeah, really nice example. Resistance broken, comes back in as support. So yeah, that's a brilliant example. Thank you for choosing Raven. Really brilliant example, actually, because of the way that we got fully rejected there, got rejected there, and then it flips to support. And then, yeah, we'd be looking up at the 0.5 next, okay, which would bring us up to here, which is also still confluence with this channel that I've got going on. So that's the way that you would work that. And yeah, that's actually a really nice example, if I'm honest with you, because of the way that 618 works. Thank you for this. Jimmy Ross, because I would have forgot. I want to show you all something a second, because I find it absolutely hilarious. The reason why I didn't mention this at the start, by the way, is because I wanted to explain the tool first before I go over this, okay? And I want to highlight to you all something which I find absolutely hilarious. I didn't want to start with this, really, but I now want to show you all something that happened, okay? and I hope that you will follow me in this, because this Fibonacci. So let me just first of all show you this, okay? Because I have used this tool for many years, okay? I've used this tool many years in Trading Technologies, a professional grade software package, okay? Obviously costing, you know, nearly 1.5 grand a month, you know, so professional grade software. I've used this in Atos. This is obviously somewhat professional grade software. It also has the tool. I've used this in Sierra Charts. Also, I would argue professional grade software. So those three, you know, you use NinjaTrader, you use, you know, actual stock-based platforms. If you use the tools on the stock-based platforms, they'll also have this tool correctly. This is the one thing that I find absolutely hilarious, to be honest, that the TradingView have made up their own tool here, and in my opinion, it was totally incorrect. So I contacted TradingView, and I said, you know, what's going on here with your Fibonacci speed fan? That in my opinion, it's actually totally, it's a bit funny that I've taught you all how to use it, but in my opinion, it's like totally incorrect, okay? Because of the difference that they have, okay? I basically just sent them this email, or not so much an email, but like a support ticket saying, you know, what's going on here? You know, the Fibonacci fan that I'm used to using, okay, many years in other software packages, and the Fibonacci speed fan that they use here are totally different, okay? So they're both used to measure time, but the TradingView only has standards for marking out Fibonacci levels, and they're almost the wrong way around, and I will explain to you how I feel this is the wrong way around. This guy replies saying, okay, thank you for telling me this. You know, no worries, mate. You know, I replied to him saying that, you know, the Fibonacci fan on professional software is honestly the complete opposite than what happens on TradingView. I think there is a mistake basically in the TradingView software. You know, they're literally, in my opinion, the wrong way around. Okay, should be like on professional grade software. Please let me load the outcome. He replies saying, oh, you know, a few other people have complained about this. I'm not kind of surprised because it's totally incorrect. The team can investigate the case and plans to add the other version of the fan in the future. We can't give an estimated time, but the ticket is tagged. Well, thank you very much. Okay, can you confirm then whether this was meant to be like this, or is it a mistake? And he basically just replies saying, other sources implemented the fan differently. Yes, I know that. So when we change it, we'll most likely add it as an option. Okay, maybe the default, which I do think is recommended. Still would like to keep it as an option because people use it, and this is the thing. People are using this, and I've given you examples where it's worked well, but in my opinion, it is still incorrect. But this is where I recommend you all follow me up, because as this guy has replied, as a rule, we set priorities based on the number of requests. So what you're all going to have to follow me in doing is basically emailing TradingView saying that this Fibonacci speed fan tool is actually, in my opinion, incorrect. But yeah, I will now show you why I believe this is incorrect. So if I just load up Sierra Charts a second and just show you this. So if we just go into here, and I'll show you, in my opinion, how the tools should be viewed in comparison to the way TradingView do it. Okay, and I'm not going to say it's like totally incorrect, but for example, okay, so this is an example that I could show you. You see here, so the tool is like in exactly the same way. So if I just delete the tool and draw it again. So tools, you can see it's called slightly different. So we got the Fibonacci fan. Okay, we're just drawing it from pivot low to pivot high. Okay, and I'll show you the difference on TradingView. You see 4-hour chart. So I'm on the 4-hour chart here. You can see pivot low to pivot high. We come down to the 50%, we bounce. We come down to the 618 and we bounce. Okay, so for me, this is the correct way that I've always been used to using the tool. You literally are looking at 50%, 618. Okay, these are the two important numbers for me. This is half the time. This is 6.8% of the time. Okay, I do like the TradingView tool, I must admit, but for me, this is what I must admit I'm more used to. And you see the numbers. And now let's compare this to what they have on TradingView. So the exact same chart. What you're going to notice is that, in my opinion, it's just, you know, it's the wrong. It's just literally the wrong way around. So we take the exact same tool from the same pivot low to the same pivot high, and what you will see here is it doesn't really make sense, does it? So you see how the 618 is, you know, this is not 618 of the time of this move. The 618 is lower down, because how can it go 61 0.8% of the time when it's, you know, in my opinion, it's just incorrectly coded. And you can see here, if we were looking at, for example, trading technologies, this line here would be 50%. Well, that's the same, obviously. But this line here is the 618 line. And here they have it labeled as the 382. And in my opinion, it's just totally coded incorrectly, which is a bit weird, if I'm honest. I don't understand how a company with millions of users can like actually release this and it's like incorrect, because you can see here there's the 50% line. This is correct. Okay, this is then the 61.8% line, which does hold the bottom of the move here. So you held support, you move up. You know, on TradingView it's somewhat still nice, because you could have said, oh, okay, we've gone, you know, to the 382 line, but in my opinion this is the wrong number. The 382 shouldn't be here. 382 should be up here, for example. This should be the 0618. So yeah, I do feel that this is actually coded incorrectly. So that's why I'd, you know, just have a little bit of caution, I suppose, using this tool. And that's why I kind of wanted to ask them before I'd done this live stream, because I didn't want to say on the live stream that this tool is incorrect without having a little bit of confirmation from the guy that's kind of somewhat admitted that it is incorrect. I was fairly certain it was, but I wanted like verify before I put out this live stream, basically. And I think it's, although he hasn't directly admitted it, I think you can trust me and believe me that I feel that this is incorrect. I've never seen a software package with it, their Fibbonacci labels like this, and I'm just really surprised that it hasn't been changed when they have millions, literally millions of people paying them, what, like $200 a month every month, and they have millions of users, and they cannot actually code a simple Fibonacci tool correctly. I just find it kind of unbelievable, if I'm honest. But there we go. So I wanted to end with that, just to make you aware of this, really, if I'm honest. I just wanted to make you aware of the differences, and supposedly it's getting changed. So that's why maybe if you review this video in, I don't know, maybe you review this video in 1 year's time and the tool is different, or maybe they listened to the suggestion and actually updated it as they should do, I suppose. But in the meantime, these levels are still valid, okay, but in my opinion, they're slightly incorrect labeling. So this, for example, should be the 618 and it's labeled 382. Okay, and you can just see, again, I just highlighting the difference. These are the same pivots selected, low and high. Okay, but when you come on to, in my opinion, more of a professional grade software, then you can see that they're just different. And this, in my opinion, is the correct version. Okay, this is the correct way of viewing it. Okay, so that's all I would bear in mind. I kind of found it hilarious, if I'm honest, that TradingView had that incorrect. Well, in my opinion, incorrect. But when price loses a Fibonacci fan level, would you expect price to move to the next level? If I'm honest, yes. Okay, so when we lose, so when you can see here the 0.5, how the 0.5 held as support, you got a bounce. But then when you lose it, so this is a 4-hour chart, so you can imagine here you've lost it, then you've back tested it and back tested it. Once we've back tested it, yeah, you do expect the 618 to come into play, because you've lost the, you know, the 50% level. Okay, so you lose the 50%, drop down to the 618. That's what you hold as support. If we had lost this 618, then we could add on like a 786, for example, and expect 786 to come into play. But in the end, you didn't need it. Okay, and you hold 618 and it bounces. Okay, so yeah, good question. And I would say, yeah, if you lose a level, you do expect the next one to come into play. Okay, so for example, here on this version, you lose the 7.5, you backtest it, 618 comes into play. Doesn't really offer too much of a level here, but you lose the 618, you come to the 0.5, you backtest it. You obviously here lose the 0.5, you come and backtest the 382. Just really not sure how they get 382 from that, but you come back and backtest the 382. Okay, so yeah, when you lose a level, you do expect the next one to come into play. What else have we got in here? I'll go through Bitcoin in a second. Do you ever use Fib Speed Fan to look for diagonal channels that you can sculpt? To look for diagonal channels? No, because I wouldn't. I mean, you could. I guess you could somewhat sculpt off these levels, okay, but I would only ever use this in Confluence. Okay, so what was the Confluence that you had down here? Well, obviously the shark, the shark harmonic was your Confluence, actually. So you just had this. Okay, so that was your confluence of, in my opinion, what's the 618. But obviously here we're calling it the 382. So the confluence that you had here was obviously the 382 line with just the target for a shark, obviously being the low of C. So like these are levels that you could look to sculpt. But in terms of like if something's grinding against it like this, would I be looking to sculpt longs each time? No, I wouldn't really trade it like that. I would use it more for areas of support where I would look for longs, areas of resistance where I would look for potentially look for shorts, but I wouldn't necessarily sculpt off of each of the touches of these levels. Okay, that's not a way that I do sculpt, I must admit. So good question, and maybe you could, this is what I put out to you the tool, how to use the tool, and this is where you have to like build your own strategy, because I must admit I've never tried to sculpt off of these levels. So you could actually try and make your own strategy using this tool, and every time you're hitting it, sculpting like longs off of that level. If you lose the level, sculpt a short until the next level. So you could use it to essentially take lots of trades off the levels. I must admit I've never actually used it that way. So I'm not saying that's not a valid way of using it, because I've never tried it. So yeah, be my guest and try and do that. Because yeah, I don't see why, it could definitely be a good idea. We should come up with a copy and paste email that we send to TradingView. Yeah, I'm happy to send you the one that I sent, because that kind of does need to be addressed. This is quite funny. Daniel is so good that he even corrects TradingView tools. Yeah. Kind of, yeah. I'm just really surprised that it hasn't been corrected in the amount of years it's been out. This is conspiracy, TradingView O's. Yep. You sure dropped the mic on them. Well done. I just find it kind of funny. But yeah, no, this is the thing. I thought maybe I can change the labels, but you could change it, but it's going to still come out in the incorrect places. So by changing them, it's not going to be beneficial. The other sort of thought process that I had is, okay, I can't change in the way that I want to the Fibonacci levels, so let's try and change another tool which is really similar, being the GAN fan. Let's try and change that, and unfortunately TradingView have locked this one down, so you can't even change the numbers in this, because this would have been easier, but yeah, they've like locked it down essentially. So yeah, I just want them to release the proper tool in the right way, to be honest. You shouldn't have to go in and adjust values. They should just release the tool the correct way. You shouldn't release a tool that have incorrect values and expect people to do it themselves. Like, they need to actually just fix it. Yeah. What are the names for this fib speed? What are the other names for this? So yeah, it's literally just called Fibonacci. It's generally just called Fibonacci fan. Okay, so that's how I've always been used to being it called. And for example, like Fibonacci expansion, Fibonacci projection, these are also the standard names for them. But you'll notice that TradingView like to come up with their own names. I think they like to coin their own names. But this is obviously just these are the tools. Time expansion, time projection. That's just the Fibonacci time tools. Yeah, so like TradingView obviously have their slight own naming conventions in the way that they like name these things. But obviously the same tool. The only difference is that this one they have like made it a little bit unique, I suppose, in the fact that they've done this like grid system. They have done that grid system, which is unique to TradingView, I must admit. But yeah, in terms of the fans coming out, that it's just incorrectly coded, I suppose. And we shouldn't have to make any adjustments. It should be correct, Yeah, so the way that this is the way I've always been used to having like the 618 lower, so you'd come down in Fibonacci numbers much like you would come down in Fibonacci retracements. I mean, that's the way that honestly I've paid for quite a few software packages, and some of them are like, yeah, definitely considered pro grade, and I've never ever seen it laid out like this. So for me it was just really weird. But essentially, yeah, you could say that this is the 618 line, but it's labeled 382. I don't know, it's just a bit weird for me. Someone else has opened the ticket. Good. Cool. So yeah, that is kind of the tool, and I would say like you can absolutely use this on TradingView, because I have used it on TradingView, and it obviously, yeah, maybe they are, maybe they aren't labeled incorrectly, but yeah, we can clearly still see the levels come into play and they've been useful. Whether this is the 618 or whether this is the 382, it's kind of it's in some ways it's irrelevant, in some ways I find it annoying, but at the end of the day, it's still a tool that's useful to use. Let's just end on that matter. Okay, does anyone have any questions about the actual tool? Any other questions specifically about the tool? If not, I'm going to move on to a perspective on Bitcoin. I don't know. I hope I haven't put you off the tool, because I must honestly say I find the tool extremely useful. It's just I am always like, I don't know, whenever I do use the tool, I will always double check it on here just to make sure that the 382 lines up with the 618, because I must say I put more weight onto the actual official way, or not official I suppose, but just the way I've always been used to doing it. I give more weight to this, and you can just see here, like that, you know, again, you could have done the same on TradingView, but I don't know, I just don't like having to. I'd like to an official answer, I suppose, of is this correct or is this wrong? And to me, their answer was like, yeah, we don't know what we've done here. It seems a bit incorrect. So that didn't give me great confidence, I must admit. But anyway, kind of moving on from there. Yeah, anyone have any questions? Otherwise, yeah, let's do Bitcoin. So, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So, anyway, let's go over Bitcoin then. So, Bitcoin. Let's remove this. Is obviously come out of play now. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. So let's just start on a higher term time frame. Okay, so I'm coming on to the daily. I must admit that I've been bullish for, you know, quite a while now, and this has definitely played out in my favour in that regards. But yeah, let's start firstly, I suppose, with the main. I want to give a high time frame perspective. High time frame perspective. Let's just put on our local levels first. Well, obviously, this weekly, you know, again, as I mentioned, like weekly resistance, you would like to see a weekly close above it. Okay, you could get aggressive. Okay, and this is like, I'm going to give you options. I'm definitely not telling you how to trade this. I'm just going to give you options. Okay, and then you have to make your own decision based off the education. But you know, aggressively, you could be looking for longs like now, because we've got a 4-hour close above the level. You have got a 4-hour close. This is now on the 4-hour time frame claimed. Well, it's got a resistance. Again, on the lower term time frames, you did actually get a little bit more on this. But yeah, that's just down a higher term time frame. So yeah, in a 4-hour sort of time frame, you could be looking to build a long position here, because you've got a 4-hour close above the level. This could be enough if you're an aggressive trader to build a long position here. Okay. More conservative would say, okay, this is a big weekly level. This is being a big weekly support resistance. I want to see a weekly close above here before I get aggressive on my longs. Okay, and that's something for you to decide. How much confirmation do you want? Are you happy with a 4-hour? Do you want a daily? Obviously, if you have a daily above it, then you have consecutive 4-hour closes, because a lot of the time you can come up and then in the next 4-hour come straight back down. So obviously, by waiting for the daily close, you're going to wait for 2 consecutive 4-hour closes above the level. So that could be a nice idea if you would like to do that. But yeah, it's hard to say, you know, I'm just, you know, I am bullish. I'm finding it really hard to struggle to find a bearish actual outlook at this moment in time. If I'm completely honest with you, that for me was such a massive resistance, and now we're above it. Okay, the only bearish scenario really for me is if you obviously now, you know, you do nuke back through it and, you know, hold it as resistance, so you move down. That's obviously bearish. You don't want to be losing this level now you've broken it. Okay, so the worst you want to see is it back tested. You really don't want to see it do this. Okay. That would then be a total fake out, so that would then be like a deviation of the level, and then we've come back in, and you know, you could expect it to come down. So you really want to hold this support now you've broken it. You know, a bearish, okay, I am bullish, but for me to like change the perspective, I suppose, is losing that level. Okay, because I don't want to see it lost now it's been gained really. So yeah, that's my kind of perspective on that regards. This is a big level that's been claimed. Now we've broken it. That's, you know, you just don't want to lose it really. Okay, so things that I've got bearing in mind, I'm still trading for this 3 drives. I've been accumulating longs on each dip. I've been accumulating even more longs. So I'm like very much long in terms of spot. I am also in a leveraged long, which I did take today as well. So I'm like leveraged long as well as spot long. So yeah, I'm pretty long at the moment. Again, I'm really safely in long. So if this like nuked down suddenly, obviously I'd be stopping in a lot of profit at the moment. But nevertheless, I'm still after 11k before I take major profits. I am taking profits along the way. So like on the leveraged position, I have taken 30% of my profits already. So yeah, I've already locked in 30% of that. I took 20%. And then I took 10% just before I started this stream, just in case, because I didn't want to be on stream and it start nuking, just dumping, and for me to want to manage that. So I did take another 10%, but yeah, nevertheless, I'm still building that position anyway. So what we can say is, I'm looking for 11k if I'm honest with you, and this is obviously the 3 drives pattern. 11k for me, such a pivotal level. Obviously you got 10k psychological at this moment in time, so 10k is a psychological, but for me it's not a big resistance level. So you could turn around at 10k psychological, but I don't really think it's going to offer too much resistance, if I'm honest. Maybe you get a pullback at the level, but ultimately I'm really looking for this 11k. Okay, I just really am looking for that as a major target for me. If you break 11k, that's when you can move up to the 3 drives pattern. And that's when you can look up for the bump and run, obviously giving you a target of around 13k. So you have 11k as for me a really, really, really big target. But yeah, then you have the bump and run giving you up to around 14k. Okay, those for me are the 2 main things that I'm trading off of. This one for me more, or the way that I'm managing my spot, I'm just really after this pattern, to be honest. And then obviously for a bigger time frame perspective, you still have your like bigger time frame harmonics coming in here, which will give you up to around 17k, more or less 16, 17k. So you have like really 11k, you break 11k, obviously you got more levels on the way up, but really for me the big ones are 11k, 13k, 17k, or 16, 17k. You break that, then all-time highs to come pretty quickly. I don't want you to all think I'm some sort of euphoric bull, because I'll happily like close out of longs and enter shorts, but I just had no reason to do that at the moment. So I'm just trading what I'm given, I suppose. But yeah, obviously this could potentially top out if we're looking at AB equals CD, 22nd of June. Okay, so 22nd of June is when we could expect this to come to an end, maybe 20 seconds, give or take a week. This obviously topped out 26th of June, so no, this topped out 26th of June. So again, that could kind of make sense if we were looking at around there for a potential high. Again, it's got a long way to go, and I'm not going to tell you how to trade this, but my perspective is that this is a bullish trend. And I think it's hard to argue with me at this moment in time that it's not bullish. I mean, yes, we're still making a lower high really here, but it's just, how much do you need? By the time, what would be ultra funny is, all the people waiting for this high to be taken to turn bullish, to just see that. That would be hilarious. Then everybody that has not been longing this whole increase in price because they're waiting for this high to actually make a higher high, to take the higher high and dump, I think would be just perfect. I don't know, but yeah, that's why just waiting for a higher high to be made is a little bit, where's your edge in trading waiting for that? So yeah, my perspective is kind of that really. I'm not getting too tied into the lower term time frames. Obviously I've been trading lower term time frames recently. I've been trading them arguably very well, but yeah, must say on the macro I remain bullish, looking for around 11k. Invalidation now would be, well, not so much invalidation per se, but I would be looking to close out a longs and potentially head short if we come back and lose 9,000. What was it? 9,550 being the weekly, 9,556. Okay, that's where I would get a little bit, bit more worried, if I'm honest. So I wanted to hide that, and I wanted to go into this. So yeah, is this 9,556? I really don't want to see us lose that level again. Now it's being above it. Okay, coming below that level would for me be a bit more bearish in the shorter term. Okay, it's still bullish per se on the longer term, but yeah, losing that on the larger term is not too much of a worry. Okay, you still got a monthly below you, but yeah, that's my perspective. I don't really want to see that loss now. Now we're above it. Okay, and I'm looking up for really 11k. I'm not going to tell you where my stop loss is, but I will say like a way that you could work out of a stop loss. Okay, so a sensible way, let's say, of like how could you place a stop loss on this? Okay, so if you're looking at this, how could you look to place a stop loss? I guess for me, it would be using this channel. Okay, this channel, and remove just a second. This for me is anywhere, but you know, this is where it's like you got to be a bit sensible when you're building longs of these positions, because obviously the stop loss is wide. Okay, if we're just going from a standard view, then stop loss is like all the way down here, which is, obviously you can't do that. So in terms of like using a stop loss which has also got a good invalidation level, I mean the weekly, okay, 8,550 if you want to have like a more tighter one, or if you want to give it a bit more space, I would say below the low of 9,452 is another possible stop loss you could do. Another way that I like to use stop losses is looking at here on, obviously I like to use just 2 high lows back, but when you don't have that, obviously you have to use other metrics, and this is where I would use other metrics like this. So if we come up to the daily, okay, so we could say you could use 9,450 as a stop loss, because you can see here how it's like a really high volume area. It's also the daily point of control, but it has been a high volume area in the past. So 9,450 would be a really, if you want to give it a lot of space, I mean, you have to make this decision. I would be arguably saying there's a few good invalidations. 9,550. The high of the range, 9,450. High of the range is basically 9,450. So really 9,450 or 9,550 are the two invalidation levels. Unless you come down on a lower term time frame, and then even here you could say you have your invalidation 9,514 is another possible invalidation for you if you want to have it more close. Obviously the closer you have, though, you could, the only problem with having a closer invalidation is because you could come and back test this, which is still bullish, and take off, and then you get stopped out by having a tighter stop loss. So like it's just something you have to kind of think about. I guess the other perspective, now since this is formed since I've been on stream, you could look for a stop loss using this and literally say that this is some sort of symmetrical triangle, and you're expecting this to break to the upside, and you could have a stop loss of validation 9,624. Must admit I haven't got this this isn't where my stop loss is, but you could look for a stop loss there and say that this is going to break upwards. I don't know, I would be more, I don't know, I kind of would expect this to come down again, to be honest, and maybe you formed in a range here. I think that would make more sense. Okay, and then do you break this range to the upside, or do you break it to the downside? And then if you obviously break it to the downside, that's where you look for the back test of that old range. Okay, obviously if you break up from this range, then this would be a good place to look for your stop loss, or move it up to there, to be honest. So that's ways that you could look to how you can place a stop loss. But the lowest one that I would really give is obviously below this level, but 9,440 is a pretty wide, but in my opinion good invalidation. Bitcoin on the monthly with the Fib fam. Do you really think we should claim at least the 2.5 to be really bullish? I mean, good question. Okay, so it is a really good question. Do we have to claim the 0.25 to be bullish? I mean, this is where you're going to have different opinions. Okay, obviously claim this 2.5 is bullish per se, because you have no resistance left on the speed fan. So you then have in this tool on its own, you break this, you have nothing here. As I've just shown you, we do have stuff here. It's just in the form of other tools. We have all the tools I've just covered. Obviously that. 13, 14, 11k, we have other things there, but really you break this in terms of this tool, there would be no reason why you wouldn't be expecting really all-time highs to come. So just like here, some people are going to say, well, I would like to see this claim to be bullish to trade up to there, just as you're going to have people saying, I'm not going to be bullish until we make obviously this is going lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, potentially lower high for a lower low. We're going to have people saying, I'm not going to buy until we take this high. And would you look at that? You could take the high and come back down. But, just people wait for different levels of confirmation, sometimes too much. But, the question of being, do I really think that we need to claim the 0.25 to be bullish? No, in my opinion, no. We don't need to claim that 0.25 to be bullish. I mean, I am bullish, and I have been bullish quite a while now. But so yeah, my answer is no. We don't need to claim this before we become bullish. But if we claimed it, it would just be even more bullish, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think we need to claim that to be bullish, in my view. No, yeah. So basically, when I obviously I've been looking at this. So what we had hit us the ascending triangle around here. So this wasn't on the lower term time frame. Okay, so this was literally like on the 1 minute, I think. So here we had this like somewhat ascending triangle coming on here. So for me, this was where I was entering into a leverage position on this ascending triangle. Okay, so we obviously had this slight come up, resistance, flat line of resistance, and then here when we started going higher highs, higher lows. And for me, I did post it in the group, the actual pattern as it was occurring, and it was mentioning that I was taking on a leverage long, and then obviously this was what I was trading off of, specifically this triangle, and then obviously that went pretty nice because we continued up really nicely. But yeah, that's what I was going off of on that ascending triangle. Cool. So yeah, that's everything that I kind of wanted to cover. I've given you my perspective. Well, I've taught, primarily I wanted to teach you this tool, and I hope to now see people using the tool, although I don't want to put you off using it, because you can see that it's beneficial, but maybe it gets changed in a few months, who knows. But yeah, I like to use this tool whenever I'm looking on the macro, 4 hour, daily, weekly, monthly. I would always have this on my chart, always, because I think it's really, really, really amazing. Okay, so I would always have this on my chart. So I hope that you all can start to use it now. Now you are aware of the tool, or now you know how to use the tool. Okay. So I hope that has been a beneficial stream. Next week I will be covering open interest and funding, which I feel are two really important metrics, and probably maybe the most questions I get asked about. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing next week, the open interest, how we can trade off of using open interest stats. The funding I feel has become, well, funding obviously is important to be aware of and know that's about, but it's less actually focused on. You can't really make fun, you can a little bit, I suppose, but trading decisions off of open interest you can trade off of, but funding not so much. But yeah, that's what I'm going to cover next week, just so you are aware. And I hope that this you have found use of this tool. Because I honestly must say I do find it very beneficial. Though I do like to backtest it using other software, I just find I'd always be looking at it. So I do find that's very beneficial. As you can see here, this was a 4 hour chart where you had the 618 with shark harmonic confluence. So yeah, that's like what you want to see to build a case. So yeah, thank you everybody so much. Thank you once again. I believe that's it. If you do feel I've missed anything, or this is what I do feel, that sometimes you watch the stream, you're not going to have questions straight away because you need time to use the tool before you have questions, and I totally understand that. So if you have a question, maybe you want to use the tool, watch the stream 2 times over, 3 times over, and then go and practice using the tool. Then if you actually have a question at the end of all that practice, just come over to Discord and post your question in here, okay? And then we'll obviously yeah, I'll obviously come and answer your questions. So another guy opening the ticket. Yeah, hopefully if we all open this, then they can actually fix it, or at least add the right tool. Okay, at least add this tool that I want added at the very least. If not, just change the one that they got. So yeah, cheers. Thank you everybody once again, and I will catch you next week for open interest and funding, or on the Champions live stream if you're in a Champions group. Yeah, must say that the account that I'm growing at the moment is pretty impressive. So thank you everybody once again. Catch you in the group, and yeah, let's have some fun trading this. I'll give my perspective as and when in the group. Cool. Cheers everybody. Thanks and good night. Bye.